Ikapoy ka no, sakit imong lawas tungod sa sobrang trabaho o sakit imong ulo tungod sa stress? Pahuway una, ginhawag lawom ug hiluta ang imong ulo gamit ang Herbalaya liniment oil. Kay mausab ni akong ginahimo, maong akong taas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag Herbalaya break sa
Herbalaya Liniment Oil. Amoy nakaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa.
RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radyo Ronda.
D-Triple-X Zamboanga.
Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Dive destination in Asia. The government will carry out the alert level system in some areas outside the national capital region beginning tomorrow. This comes as the country continues to record a decline in COVID-19 cases. The health department reported over 4,000 new cases today, the lowest in over 2 months. More details on the alert level system later on in the program. People below 18 and above 65 years old will be allowed to go on essential travel within Metro Manila under the new MMDA. This comes as the country continues to record a decline in COVID-19 cases. More details on the health department reported over 4,000 new cases today, the lowest in over 2 months. And above 65 years old will be allowed to go on essential travel within Metro Manila under the new MMDA guidelines. The agency says minors need to be accompanied by a parent or an adult guardian. They must also bring identification cards or documents as proof of relationship. Individual outdoor exercises are now allowed as well for all ages, regardless if they have an existing illness or are still unvaccinated. The MMDA chairman says officials are still fine-tuning policies.
Inuunti-unti natin ito. Kasi ang pinakamasamang mangyari ngayon, remember, we're nearing November ha, pinakamasama kung magkamali tayo rito at dumami ang kaso. Naku po, ang sama ng Pasko natin.
The new guidelines take effect tomorrow until the end of the month. Groups raising concerns over an alleged or illegal policy supposedly carried out by some companies. Employees allegedly have not been paid merely because they are not yet vaccinated against COVID-19. Tristan Odalo has that story.
Lawmakers, the Labor Department, and an employers group take a united stand against the so-called no vaccine, no salary policy, calling it illegal and discriminatory. The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, or TUCP, denounced the alleged policy of some companies of withholding the salaries of unvaccinated workers, citing the case of 12 food service employees in Metro Manila.
Kinakailangan magpakita muna ng vaccination card bago nila makuha yung kanilang sahod. Natatakot sila dahil kung sila ang magsumbong at mag-surface, ma-identify sila at pag-iinitan o kaya naman ay baka sila ay tanggalin sa trabaho.
Labor Chief Silvestre Bello slammed the illegal act, adding that employers cannot hold salaries of unvaccinated workers. But he clarifies that no formal complaint on such a policy has been filed so far. The Employers Confederation of the Philippines, or ECOP, says it does not support the policy considering the pace of the vaccination drive.
Hindi mo pwedeng i-hold ang sweldo ng employee mo unless there is a legal basis or legal cause. Yung hindi mo pagbabaksin o pagbabakuna, hindi yan legal basis.
We don't support that, and at the moment it's illegal. We don't feel that we will also support changing the rules of the law.
Many job applicants also opposed the mandatory vaccination policy. Some of them said they were denied employment for being unvaccinated.
Hindi ako papayag siya ng ganun. Kailangan, pag pumasok na ako ng trabaho, kailangan sahod kahit wala kang vaccine.
Kung hindi ka pa-vaccine, pwede kang, hindi ka muna papasukin. Magpa-vaccine ka muna bago ka nila pagtrabuhin.
The Labor Department urges workers who are experiencing challenges over their vaccination status in their workplaces to report to DOLE regional offices for proper action and investigation. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
Lawmakers in the House of Representatives are now calling for an investigation into the so-called no vaccine, no pay scheme. A COVID-19 testing facility clears the Philippine Red Cross from alleged inaccurate test results. President Duterte and a Deputy House Speaker earlier claimed there were over 40 false positive results from the Red Cross laboratory in Subic. hospital took the swab samples and sent them to the humanitarian organization for analysis. But the Health Department and the Research Institute for Tropical Medicine found no evidence of contamination in those samples, saying, quote, the results were found to be valid and reliable. RITM explains that test results from Red Cross and a separate laboratory could have differed because the samples were taken 3 days apart. A Red Cross official believes there was malicious intent behind the complaint.
Bakit ginawa in a public hearing? If there was no issue of malicious intent, di ba? They could have written us, they could have called us, and we could have addressed it immediately. Eh hindi, ginawa sa public hearing, parang nasira na yung reputation ng tao, wala naman basis yung kanilang binitawang mga accusations.
Dr. Ubialder of the PRC, also a former health secretary. Other Red Cross laboratories in Metro Manila, Cebu, and Davao also inspected and cleared from erroneous testing by the Health Department. The Red Cross adds it double checks all samples with the viral count near the threshold to confirm if they are positive for COVID-19. 13 more hospitals in Metro Manila will be part of the vaccination of minors against the coronavirus, among them the Caloocan Medical Center, the Hospital ng Parañaque, and the Pasay General Hospital. The Interior Department says the additional facilities will begin inoculations this Friday. Immunization of minors aged 12 to 17 kicked off in 8 hospitals last week. Those with existing illnesses were first in line. The government aims to vaccinate over 144,000 minors this month. The Education Department announces only 30 schools so far will join the pilot run of face-to-face classes on November 15th. The agency initially said 59 schools were allowed to participate in the program, but some withdrew their applications because of lack of support from local governments or parents. Officials say, however, some institutions are still appealing to be included, so the number may go up by next month. The 30 participating schools are from Bicol, Western and Central Visayas, the Zamboanga Peninsula, Northern Mindanao, and Soxargen.
It's moving every day, so hindi talaga natin maitataga sa bato yung mga numero natin pagdating dito sa pagpili ng pilot school. Nag-move talaga siya, kagabi lang nabawasan ng isa, dapat 31 yan, 30 na lang.
DepEd and the National Task Force Against COVID-19 will ramp up the vaccination of teachers and school personnel ahead of the pilot run. In a new memorandum, DepEd said it will generate a list of unvaccinated personnel, which will be the government's basis for the allocation of doses to areas where participating schools are located. Coming up on Newsnight, a Senate panel recommends complaints against former government officials and medical suppliers executives over alleged anomalies in the procurement of products for COVID-19 response. And Senator Bato de la Rosa changes his tune about allowing a probe into the country's war on drugs should he be elected president. Details when we return. Welcome back to CNN Philippines. Returning to our top story, the government will carry out the alert level system outside the National Capital Region beginning tomorrow. Now, this comes as the country continues to record a decline in COVID-19 cases. The health department reported over 4,000 new cases today, the lowest in over 2 months. Trisha Tarada tells us more.
The national government has expanded the pilot implementation of the alert level system to other areas outside Metro Manila. Effective October 20th until the end of the month, Negros Oriental and Davao Occidental will be under Alert Level 4. Indoor dining under Alert Level 4 is allowed up to 10% capacity for fully vaccinated individuals only, while outdoor dining is allowed up to 30% regardless of the customer's vaccination status. Activities and establishments are restricted mostly from 10 to 30% capacity. Cinemas, movie houses, casinos, and other betting and gaming sites, bars and concert halls, and kids' amusement industries such as playgrounds and playrooms are not allowed to operate. Cavite, Laguna, Rizal, Siquijor, Davao City, and Davao del Norte will be placed on Alert Level 3, same as Metro Manila. Movement is less restricted with higher operational capacities, but gambling and betting sites, bars and karaoke, and kids' amusement venues are still not allowed to operate. Most of these restrictions will be eased under Alert Level 2. So far, areas under Alert Level 2 are Batangas, Quezon, Lucena City, Bohol, Cebu City, Lapu-Lapu City, Mandaue City, Cebu Province, Davao de Oro, Davao del Sur, and Davao Oriental. Establishments are allowed to operate at higher capacities from 50 to 70%. These include bars, concert halls and theaters, fun fairs or ferias, and kids' amusement venues. Gambling arenas are still banned. All restrictions will be lifted under Alert Level 1, but the government has yet to list any area under this category. Alert Level 1 requires full vaccination of at least 70% of the A2, A3, and eligible population. The COVID-19 Interagency Task Force says the alert level system is still on limited implementation.
So mapapansin niyo po, ilang rehiyon pa lamang ang na-include dito sa pilot study. Pero sabihin na po natin na yung pagbaba po ng mga kaso at saka yung pag-improve ng ating healthcare utilization rate ay parang may kinalaman po doon sa alert level system na in-adapt natin sa Metro Manila.
Based on government data, the ICU utilization rate in Metro Manila has gone down to 59%. Isolation bed utilization is at 38%, while 55% of ventilators are still available. Although there are improvements, the situation is still not as good as it seems on the ground. Philippine College of Physicians President Dr. Maricar Limpin says ICU and emergency wards are still full. She says health workers are worried infections could spike again as restrictions ease.
Importante po, ikonsidera natin na sa larangan ng public health, kabahagi po yung pagkakaroon ng hanap buhay para maiwasan ang pagkagutom. Hindi po lockdown ang solusyon sa COVID dahil alam na po natin paano mabuhay amidst COVID.
The government urges the public to continue observing minimum health protocols and to get vaccinated as soon as possible. Trisha Tarada, CNN Philippines.
Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Richard Gordon wants complaints filed against people involved in alleged procurement anomalies, including former Duterte advisor Michael Yang. Now, this is among the preliminary findings announced by Gordon at the 12th hearing on the handling of COVID-19 response funds. More from Imar Santos.
After marathon hearings on alleged procurement anomalies, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee discloses its preliminary findings.
Meron po ako mga finding na partial report. Papakita ko muna sa aking mga kasama at saka po natin ilalabas sa lahat. Ito po ay partial report at ayokong gamitin pa itong misa na sabihin tapusin na naman ang investigasyon.
These include a recommendation to prosecute and deport Chinese businessman and former Duterte advisor Michael Yang. He allegedly lent money to disgraced government supplier Pharmaly Pharmaceutical Corporation, which bagged more than 11 billion pesos in government contracts despite lack of capital. Gordon wants graft and corruption charges against Yang, former Procurement Service Head Lloyd Christopher Lau, former PS Director and now overall Deputy Ombudsman Warren Leong, and the executives and officers of Pharmaly. Gordon specifically seeks estafa charges against Pharmaly's Crizel Grace Mago and Mohit Dargani. Mago earlier admitted under oath that formally swindled the government by tampering with the expiration dates of face shields. But she later retracted her testimony. Among the slew of other possible cases, frauds against the public treasury for Lao and Leong, perjury, disobedience to summons, and violation of the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act against Yang and Formally officials, and falsification of public documents against Leong, as well as then PS inspectors George Mendoza and Mervin Tanquintic. All those identified by Gordon denied wrongdoing during the hearings. Attorney Ferdinand Topacio, counsel for Formalist Lincoln Ong, dismissed the initial findings. Outside the Senate, health advocates protested President Duterte's alleged lawyering for Michael Yang and other implicated individuals.
We would like to suggest na sana siguro it's time to create an independent body na siyang gagawa ng investigation, no? Para po hindi po mapulaan ang ating gobyerno na meron pong pagtatago na gagawin.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque and other cabinet officials again skipped Tuesday's hearing on President Duterte's order. Amer Santos, CNN Philippines.
The committee cited formerly executives Mohit and Twinkle Dargani in contempt for refusing to submit documents subpoenaed by senators. The Darganis were ordered detained in the Senate, joining formerly Director Lincoln Ong, who has been there for over a month now for supposedly lying during the hearings. Meanwhile, Senator Risa Ontiveros claimed that formerly also sold medical goods to the Philippine National Railways last year at prices higher than stated in their catalog. The Commission on Audit chairperson says this raises a red flag. The Senate will also ask the Bureau of Internal Revenue to check 2 Chinese-led companies for failure to pay taxes. The next hearing will be on October 28th. Presidential aspirant Senator Bato de la Rosa is having a change of heart. In a television interview, de la Rosa said he will not, is that a TV or a newspaper interview, said he will not allow the International Criminal Court to investigate the country's drug war if he wins the presidency. The senator added that he will make sure to protect not just himself, but President Duterte as well. In my interview with De La Rosa on the day he filed his certificate of candidacy for president, he said he will face the ICC probe.
Hindi naman siguro ako masabi natin na walang bayag. Ginawa namin yon para sa kabutihan ng ating bansa, para matahimik ang ating bansa, para ang mga anak ninyo ay makakapaglakad sa kalsada ng hindi namumulistya, para makatulog kayo ng mga himbing tuwing gabi, na walang akyat bahay na akyat sa bahay nyo na under the influence of drugs. Ginawa namin yun. So, kung meron man kami kakaharapin na problema, well, andito ako, hindi ako tatakbo. Haharapin ko yan. May bayag tayo, ginawa natin yan, so harapin natin yan.
De La Rosa was at the forefront of the drug war when he was National Police Chief. Last month, the ICC pretrial chamber found reasonable basis to proceed with the probe into alleged crimes against humanity. The Duterte administration reiterated it will not cooperate with the international judicial body. Government data show over 6,000 were killed in anti-illegal drug operations from 2016 to May this year. Vice President Leni Robredo faces pressure from labor leaders urging her to include lawyer Sonny Matula in her Senate slate. The Alliance of Labor Leaders for Leni, or All for Leni, has already endorsed Robredo for president, but the presidential aspirant has yet to choose her 12th candidate for senator. Robredo said 4 to 5 names are being considered, including that of Matula and Makabayan's Nery Colmenares. Matula and 65 other labor leaders presented their agenda to Robredo last week. Matula points out, even if Robredo does not pick him, the alliance will still support the vice president. All for Leni says it has 350,000 members and vows to deliver at least 2 million votes. The camp of presidential aspirant Manny Pacquiao insists no COVID-19 protocols were violated during a visit to Batangas, but that's despite the crowd turnout in one town. The camp estimates about 7,000 people flocked to Balayan. Pacquiao spokesperson Nikki De Vega admits they were surprised by this. Pacquiao went to Batangas last Friday to distribute cash and grocery packs, but De Vega clarifies the Pacman only wanted to fulfill his vow to help the AL victims.
So wala pong violation dyan. Kung nilapitan siya ng tao, talagang nagulat nga rin si Senator Manny kasi hindi naman, kumbaga, yung pagbibigay niya ng ayuda sa balayan, yun yung kanyang packet. Nagpuntahan yung mga tao kasi mahal nila si Senator Manny. Sabi nga kasi proud adopted son siya ng Batangas. Pero wala pong na-breach na health protocols doon.
The Interior Department is investigating if health protocols were violated. The filing of certificates of candidacy is over, but critics of the government have so far failed to agree on a common standard bearer to challenge whoever the administration's choice will be. To talk about that and more tonight at 8:30, we'll have with us the spokespersons of opposition aspirants. Join me on Politics as Usual, only here on CNN Philippines.
Correctly, how many will there be? Or maybe we should ask, will there be one? This is Politics as Usual.
An election watchdog calls on the public to trust the automated election system, but remain vigilant in the conduct of the polls. The Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting, or PPCRV chairperson, Myla Villanueva, says the system is not perfect, but she says it is a better option than going back to the manual elections. PPCRV also clarified some myths like the 7-hour glitch in the 2019 polls. That was when election returns failed to enter the transparency server for 7 hours because of an overwhelming amount of data going into the system. But PPCRV confirmed that all the numbers that entered the central server matched with those in the transparency server. And while there is no concrete evidence yet, Villanueva asked people to be wary of foreign intervention in the polls, just like what happened in the U.S., in the United States in 2016. Villanueva also warned of cheating that may happen outside the automation system, like vote buying and pre-shading of ballots. Still to come on Newsnight, the latest on Apple's new products. We tell you what features are coming back in the MacBooks and AirPods. And still dreaming of that beach trip? You don't have to go too far, as the Philippines remains a top sun, sea, and sand destination in Asia. Catch these stories next, only here on CNN Philippines. Welcome back. Old is new for Apple with its second batch of releases. The next MacBook Pro reintroduces some well-loved features from the past, including the HDMI port and SD card slot. Here's a look at some of the other updates.
The new MacBook Pro has been reimagined in every way. Let's start with the keyboard. Users value the full-height function row on the standalone Magic Keyboard, and we've brought it to the MacBook Pro. The physical keys replace the touch bar, bringing back the familiar tactile feel of mechanical keys that Pro users love. The keyboard is set in a double anodized black well that elegantly highlights the backlit glyphs on the keys. And it's complemented by our expansive, industry-leading Force Touch trackpad that's perfect for Pro applications. On one side, there's an HDMI port for conveniently connecting to displays and TVs, a Thunderbolt 4 port, which connects to high-speed peripherals, and an SD card slot enabling fast access to media. On the other side, the headphone jack now has advanced support for high-impedance headphones, and there are 2 more Thunderbolt 4 ports for a total of 3 in the system. And yes, MagSafe is coming back to the MacBook Pro. MagSafe 3 has a new design that supports more power into the system, and you can still charge via the Thunderbolt ports.
We also expanded the display up and around the camera, making the top border 60% thinner, giving you even more screen real estate. And macOS takes full advantage of this extra space by raising the menu bar up and out of the way, automatically wrapping it around the camera to give you more room for your content.
When you compare the 14-inch model to the previous high-end 13-inch MacBook Pro, you get a giant leap in performance, up to 7 more hours of battery life, a larger display with XDR, an advanced camera, high-fidelity audio, and more ports, all for $1999. And when you compare the new 16-inch Pro to the previous model, you also get a massive boost in performance and capabilities for $24.99.
The Philippines is Asia's top beach and dive destination in this year's World Travel Awards. The Tourism Department announced this earlier today, naming Boracay and Siargao as just some of the many beach spots now open to domestic travelers. Tubataha Reef Natural Park in Palawan and Anilao in Batangas also mentioned as areas showcasing the Philippine diving scene. This marks the country's 3rd straight win as top dive destination in the continent and its 5th total feat for top beach destination. But the Philippines is still vying for 5 other awards, this time in the global category. These include the world's leading beach, dive, and island destinations. And before we go, 40 years ago, a comedy legend gave us the history of the world, and some British women helped change the world. Both are back in the news, seen as David Daniel explains in our Hollywood Minute.
The Lord Jehovah has given unto you these 10 commandments for all to obey.
Mel Brooks' History of the World Part 1 took audiences through the ages up to the French Revolution. Despite the title, Brooks never planned a sequel, but 40 years later, Hulu has announced an 8-episode variety series, History of the World Part 2. Brooks will be an executive producer and writer on the sequel. No word whether the 95-year-old Oscar winner will also perform in the show.
We knew we were crazy, but we had to do it. All these women with one purpose had come together.
Mothers of the Revolution tells the true story of the British women credited with helping end the Cold War, marching and demonstrating for years in England, then traveling to the U.S. and Russia to spread their message of nuclear disarmament. The documentary about the Greenham Common women and their historic protest is now available on digital platforms. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
We have 67 days before Christmas, and that is it for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'll see you at 8:30 for Politics as usual.
Caster ng Pilipinas.
Huy, noon sa man ka. Nagbugot lagi ka. Kabalo na ko. Ikapoy ka no. Sakit imong lawas tungod sa sobrang trabaho? O sakit imong ulo tungod sa stress? Pahuway una. ginhawag lawom, ug hiluta ang imong ulo gamit ang Herbalaya liniment oil. Kay mausab ni akong ginahimo, maong akong taas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break sa
Herbalaya liniment oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa.
O, anyari sa'yo? Ba't nakasimangot ka? Alam ko na. Masakit ang katawan mo, ano? Sa sobrang trabaho? O di kaya masakit ang ulo sa sobrang stress? Break ka muna. Hinga ng malalim at imasahe ang ulo mo gamit ang Herbalaya liniment oil. Ako rin ganun eh. Kaya pag mataas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break ka muna.
Herbalaya liniment oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa.
Got your 2-dose vaccination? Present your vaccination card and enjoy more and more perks for you. Free KCC bonus card membership or free KCC bonus card renewal. Get 100 peso shopping reward for your next shopping using your KCC bonus card to enjoy more choices at KCC department store. And wait, there's more from our KCC participating stores. Nakapabakuna na, panalo ka pa. Visit promo booth at basement level and KCC participating stores for more details. Vaccine win in KCC, kaya magpabakuna na.
Huy, naunsa man ka? Nagbugot lagi ka. Kabalon ako. Ikapoy ka no. Sakit imong lawas tungod sa sobrang trabaho? O sakit imong ulo tungod sa stress? Pahuway una. Ginhawag lawom, ug hiluta ang imong ulo gamit ang Herbalaya liniment oil. Kay mausab ni akong ginahimo, maong akong taas ang tensyon sa trabaho, mag-Herbalaya break sa
Herbalaya liniment oil. Amoy na kaaya-aya. Sa bawat pahid ay ginhawa.
RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radyo Ronda.
DXXX Zamboanga.
Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng
Let's go straight to the sources of the story. We have presidential aspirant and Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and his vice presidential running mate, Dr. Willie Ong Yorme. Dr. Willie, magandang umaga po sa inyong dalawa and welcome to the source.
Thank you, Pinky. Maraming salamat sa iyo at sa iyong mga staff dyan sa CNN. At kay partner Doc, Willie, good morning.
Good morning po. Yorme.
Okay. Okay, umpisahan na po natin kay Mayor Isko. Yorme, malakas naman po talaga yung ugong-ugong natatakbo kayo bilang Pangulo. And for the most part, sinasabi nyo na trabaho muna ang kailangan yung gawin, ano? I'm sure there are a number of reasons that push you to run. But if I were to ask you, ano ho yung top 3 reasons or things or circumstances that actually pushed you to run? And a follow-up question on that was, why was the declaration made yesterday? Dahil marami pong nagulat.
Okay. Thank you. Una, siyempre, alam mo, kung sarili ko lang ang iisipin ko, dito na lang sa Maynila, and we'll see the countries like, having so much trouble and challenges ng mga tao. Para bang nakakaawa naman na panoorin ko na lang yung laban. Nakakalumo talaga ang tunay na sitwasyon sa baba. No? But be that as it may, this is democracy. I thought, okay, sige, we'll offer something for our people. Different things like, bilisan natin ng kilos and all other things. And fortunately, at salamat naman sa mga weeks of inikayat natin si Doc na maging bahagi ng plano natin to really address our COVID situation in the country so that we can focus more on our economic recovery. Like in Manila, na partner ko, Doktor, at so far naman, sa awa ng Diyos, matagumpay naman yung partnership ng mayor at vice mayor na doktora. So sabi natin, tingnan natin niya yung si Doc Willie. Kasi nakikita ko si Doc Willie na mukhang may puso to sa tao on his own. On his own, kumikilos siya at hindi rin siya nagpapapigil. Kaya yun ang naisip namin. Sige, at salamat naman, umuo si Doc Willie alam ko marami rin nagkumbinsi sa kanya na tumakbong senador. Isa na nga rin ako doon. But we opted, diinan na natin to. Ipakita natin sa tao yung layunin natin, bakit tayo sasali sa halalan. Yung layunin na ang partner natin can continue to address the current situation with regard to health issue. So that most of our time will be dedicated in addressing future jobs for our people, certainty with our policies, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that the reason bakit kami nakipag-apply, kasama kaming aplikante sa mamamayan para sa pagpanguluhan at Vice Presidente.
Yorme, although meron pong sumusuporta, of course, sa inyo, meron din ho kasing nagsasabi na kaka-mayor lang, pangulo na kaagad. Hindi man lang nag-senador, hindi man lang nag-vice president, diretso sa pagkapangulo. What do you say to those people who are saying na tila nagmamadali naman ata kayo?
Well, that's a good point. I respect that opinion. But let me refresh your memories that I've been serving the city and the government for 23 years of my life. I'm 46 years old. Half of my life was dedicated to public service. Second, remember, marami rin namang mga taong nahalal, no? Nahalal na mga, by yung siguro nature or tawag yan, destiny. In the likes of sumalangit nawa, si Tita Cory, no? Si Tita Cory, nahalal ng tao, naupo ng tao, kahit na siya ay plain housewife, wala rin siyang experience, because yung trust ng tao. Kasi yun naman ang importante muna, yung tiwala sa iyo yung tao. At marami rin nahalal ng mga senador. Pinky, marami rin nahalal ng senador. Wala ring public office, or they are in a different agency for a short period of time, then they got elected. So, to cut the long story short, as far as I am concerned, I've been serving the public half of my life. No, I think that thing speaks for itself. Second, modesty aside, pinagsikapan naman namin na yung kalugmukan ng Maynila sa mahabang panahon, naitaguyod naman natin, naibalik ulit natin yung tanyag ng pagiging kapitolyo ng bansa. In fact, we became competitive in the world, like in the Bloomberg philanthropy. Out of 263 cities in the world, we became top 50 finalists in that competition. Yeah. And including the national agencies of our country. Nung last year, despite the pandemic, binigyan naman tayo ng pagkilala. And in mga sertifikasyon ng pagpapatakbo ng gobyerno ng maayos, ng iba pang ahensya ng gobyerno. So in a short period of time, despite the pandemic, nagtuloy-tuloy ang buhay at pamamahala sa lungsod ng Maynila. And these are the things that we need, going against this pandemic na talagang mananatili pa sa atin hanggang 2022.
All right. So let me shift to Dr. Williong. Dr. Ong, again, magandang umaga po sa inyo. Napansin ko po kahapon, tila wala kayong prepared speech. Ano po? May kinuha lang kayo sa parang polo nyo na maliit na papel. Some of the stuff that I remember na sinabi niyo po, wala talaga po ito sa inyong plano. And a lot will agree that this came from left field. Nagulat talaga yung mga tao na ikaw ang vice presidential bet ni Mayor Isko, no? Pero dalawa po yung sinabi niyo that struck sa akin. Sabi niyo po, maraming coincidence, at yung pangalawa, sabi niyo may kutob kayo kay Yorme. Ano ho ba talaga yung kutob niyo kay Mayor Isko? At nagdesisyon kayong sumabak at tumakbo bilang Vice President?
Yes, talagang pinagdasal ko maigi, tinitingnan ko siya maigi kasi marami na ako namimit na mga politiko doon sa mga experience ko sa 2019. Gusto ko makita kung talagang mabibigay niya, magagawa ba niya to, at pinagdasal ko maigi. Tapos nung nakita ko, right now I'm very confident he can do it. When I see him, I feel confident. Nakikita ko maganda yung partnership namin. Sinibigay niya sa akin na alagaan itong health sector, kung anong magandang bakuna ibibigay sa kababayan natin, kung ano yung mga susunod na second generation vaccine. Kasi pipili tayo niya. Ano isasaksak sa ating katawan, pati sa mga anak natin. Papaaralin na ba natin sa school o hindi pa? Anong gamot ang ibibigay? Napakahalaga nito. Kung ano meron sa mayayamang bansa, sa Amerika, sa Europa, kawawa naman yung kababayan natin kung hindi natin ibibigay ito. Nakita ko nagagawa niya sa Maynila. And he's really very serious in studying lahat itong mga health problems. Pero kung matutulungan ko siya, sabi ko nga, okay naman ako kung sa Senado, pag-iisipan ko. Pero kung saan niya ako gusto ilagay, susunod lang ako.
Okay, pag-usapan po natin yung popularity. Sabi ni Mayor Isko, I'm neither the son or the daughter of a president. Ang dagdag nyo pa, walang mga avenues named after your family, kahit waiting shed. Sabi nyo nga, wala. Iisa lang yung pangalan na Domagoso. While you may seem popular, Yorme, sa Metro Manila, maybe sa Calabarzon, paano ho ninyo siguro i-introduce yung sarili ninyo sa mga taong posibleng hindi talaga kayo kilala sa mga liblib na lugar? Ang City of Manila ho ba ang magiging showcase ninyo para mapakilala kayo sa mga taong hindi kayo kilala?
Well, what happened to Manila is just one thing. No? Siyempre gusto ko rin ma-meet, makilala ako ng mga tao doon sa bundok ng Tralala, sa talagang sulok ng bansa. And we have that kind of commitment that we will go to them and try to be reasonable and express our intention, state our intention to the far-flung areas of our country. And I hope I will be given a chance. But then again, Pinky, hindi naman to Mr. and Mrs. Congeniality competition. Hindi naman to Mr. and Mrs. Universe. This is about the lives of our people. And history or things that you have done in the past or even records of what you have done is an asset also that can be shared to every Filipino. Yun naman ang akin, ipagtatapat ko naman kung ano yung nagawa sa Maynila at ano yung mga pangarap natin at yung karakter natin. Because tingin ko nowadays, yung values ng isang kandidato at saka yung kanyang mga karanasan, isa sa mga pwedeng maibenta sa ating mga mamamayan bilang aplikante. When you try to apply for a job, di ba? Tinitingnan yung experience mo, tinitingnan na pati mga yung educational background mo, tinitingnan nyo, sinisiyasat yun. Or tinitingnan din nila, who are you as a person? So meron kang experience, medyo sana pumasa ako sa academic background na requirements nila. Tapos yung point of use, that's very important because it's going to be a policy. Remember, we all know that halos lahat ng lumalabas sa bibig ng leader, it became a policy. So that is very important in job interview, during the job interview. Ayun naman ang gagawin naman natin. And I hope my fellow Visayan, by blood, Pinky, I am 100 Bisaya. Hindi mo lang makikita sa akin, at hindi ko naman yan kinubli, but my father is from Panay Island, Antique. My mother is from Samar. Sila ay mga biktima ng neglect ng nakaraan. Katulad din ng mga ibang kababayan natin sa probinsya. Kasi kung naging mabuti ang pamahalaan sa kanila nung araw, ay hindi sila pupunta sa Maynila para mag-squatter at magbaka sakali. So I am the product of that. And it's very clear of the connection. So if we can make it better there, in the provinces, in the far-flung area, sa mga bundok ng Tralala, wala nang pupunta sa Maynila at para magbaka sakali at mag-squatter dito na mas mahirap ang buhay. So if we can send that kind of message and hope, or at least put into action, hindi lang yung lip service, then I think there will be an equal opportunity anywhere in the country in the coming future.
And speaking of popularity, I also want to ask Dr. Willie Ong. He's very popular on Facebook. You have 16 million followers. Sa YouTube ho ata 6.5 million ang iyong followers. However, tumakbo ho kayo in 2019 and obviously, while you made it to number 18, obviously hindi po kayo nanalo. How do you plan, siguro sir, Dr. Ong, to translate this popularity on social media? How do you plan to translate that into votes in 2022?
Siyempre, I'll just be myself. Gagawin natin yung kaya natin. And I'll be joining Mayor Isko sa mga pupuntahan niya, sa mga interviews niya. And I learned a lot in 2019. I learned a lot about politics, the good points, the bad points, and maraming lessons doon are very important. And I'll be taking those for 2022.
Kailan ho kayo mag-officially resign sa Lakas CMD, sir?
I think they have talked already with Lakas CMD. Actually, I wanted to stay in Lakas CMD, but I'm not sure what is the process there. So if I have to resign, I will join Mayor Isko's party.
All right, we need to take a very short break. The source will be right back. And you're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our guest today, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and Dr. Willie Ong. Just very briefly, I want to touch on this to both gentlemen. Really, the choice of Mayor Isko was Senator Grace Poe. Sabi na po ni Mr. Lito Banayo, you tried and tried, but in the end, she said no. I wanted to ask you both, do you think this is divine intervention or maybe even destiny that because humindi po si Senator Grace Poe, ay kayo po, Mayor, naghanap ho kayo ng ibang partner. Because if it was Senator Grace Poe, obviously, hindi po top of mind yung isang tao, vice presidential bet na mangunguna sa COVID response ng gobyerno sakaling manalo kayo.
Alam mo, ang maganda nga minsan, alam mo, yung sinasabi ko lagi, ang mga pagsubok sa buhay teaches you lessons. And from the lessons, you will learn. Ang maganda naman, pag nadapa ka, bumangon ka agad. And these are the things that we need in the coming days, months, and weeks, and years of our lives dealing with pandemic. Tama yung sinabi mo. Alam mo, sinabi ko rin yung kaila Doc Willie noon. Sabi ko, siguro talagang sinasadya ng tadhana, no? Na from with all the challenges, no, dealings with some leaders of our country, then here we are. Pinaglinaw ang isip natin. No, why not? Then we analyze it. What are the challenges of coming days? And science will agree with us that pandemic or COVID-19 will stay. So, tingnan natin. We offer something. And I agree with you. I do believe in God. Naniniwala ako kay Jesus, no? Kay Mama Mary. Baka nga mamaya, hulog ng langit itong sitwasyon namin ni Doc Willie to really offer something different. And the thing speaks for itself. No? Doktor, Vice President, tapos Presidente, may karanasan, may managerial skills, at battle, modesty aside, I think Dr. Willie and I are battle-tested in the COVID situation in our country, in his own world, in our world, here in Manila. Kaya I would think that way, that maybe God intervened. Hopefully, I'm not using God in this conversation, but sa'yo na rin naman ang galing, maybe nga, may awahan Diyos.
Si Dr. Ong, I'm going to change the question naman. Meron ho kasing si political analyst, si Dean Tony Lavinia. Ang sabi po niya, stroke of genius daw itong partnership na to. I believe he was the one that said that because bago, out of the box, kumbaga nga, Kayo ho ba confident? That's what I want to know. Are you confident with such a team up that this will actually change people's perspective na nakasanayan na ang binoboto ho talaga mga politiko na presidente at vice president. This is obviously, again, to use the term out of the box, are you confident that this will allow people to gravitate towards Isko Moreno and Dr. Willie Ong tandem?
For me, Pinky? Yes, ang focus ko lang, Pinky, talaga, if Mayor Isko wins for the next 6 years, ano magagawa natin? Specifically sa health sector. So iniisip ko na kung anong gagawin, ano yung COVID response natin for health workers, hospitals, medicines, vaccines, especially yung trust ng people, yung pronouncement. Like for now, mababa yung vaccination rate natin. So, iniisip ko na anong magagawa natin in 6 years, maybe a new infectious disease hospital, we need a Center for Disease Control para dito sa atin. So, very neglected na yung health sector. After the health sector, we are studying the whole program of government. 5 hours na kami nag-aaral nito. Bilis kilo. So, we're really studying and ready for entry.
Doc Willie, I will follow up na dahil napaka-importante yung mga sinasabi niyo. For example, Philippine Genome Center, hindi ho ba, nasa Luzon, kailangan natin sa Visayas and Mindanao. They were asking for 100 million peso budget, 50 million in Visayas, 50 million in Mindanao. RATM, pinag-usapan na rin po, you mentioned that, mga ospital, nurses, etc. But very important, yung sinabi niyong vaccine. Sabi niyo, ituturo ko sa inyo yung pinakamabisang bakuna. Ano ho ba para sa inyo ang pinakamabisang bakuna ngayon?
Ang pinakamabisang bakuna, yung darating na bakuna, yung second generation vaccines, yung may panlaban sa Delta variant. Diba? Yung ngayon, pag-iisipan natin, booster, no booster. I'm just saying, we will get the best science, na tingin namin, we will get the best experts, kilala ko to, and we will decide based on ano ibibigay ko sa pamilya ko. Diba? Not based on other factors. Alam niyo na naman anong other factors Kailangan doktor ang magli-lead nitong COVID response.
But isn't that also, do you see the challenges of that being such a tall order because of the inequity, yung kulang po ng mga bakuna sa mga nagtatanong bakit madaming Sinovac? Dahil Sinovac po, ang milyon-milyon na nagdala ng bakuna dito. Some of course favor Pfizer, maybe even Moderna, but it seems the problem is the lack of supply. How will you be able to, even as a doctor, nasabihin po natin for the sake of argument, sabihin na mas mabisa ho talaga ang Pfizer, kunwari lang po or Moderna, pero dahil po may kakulangan ng bakuna, baka hindi din po talaga mapunta sa bansa yung mga the best, kunwari po, na bakuna. How do you intend to solve that?
Yes, tama po. It's very possible na hindi tayo mabibigyan nito mga best vaccines, pero it will not be from lack of effort. Talagang tututukan ni Mayor yan. Ngayon pa lang, intention to order na tayo. Kung dito lalabas, siyempre pupusta na tayo o order na tayo dito. Depending paglabas ng stats, o order na tayo dito. So based on what is best for our people, we will do our best. Okay lang naman sa tao, we try to get this medicine, pero it's not available. So ito na lang. Pero yung masakit, yung hindi mo sure kung kinuha pa, hindi ba kinuha. So yung trust pag nawala yung trust ng mga public at doon sa mga doctors na maggagamot sa kanila, mawawala. Pag nawala yung trust, hindi gagaling yung pasyente. Magugulo lang tayo. So maybe I can offer that. Having said that, I'm not saying anything against the government. They are doing their best. Maybe we will just do it different. Ibang style ni Yorme, iba rin naman ang style natin para pagsasama. Maganda po teamwork namin.
Yeah, just a follow-up, when sinabi niyo po during your speech yesterday na nakita niyo po yung mga healthcare workers natin umiiyak, plain and simple, sakali pong manalo si Mayor, manalo po kayo, alam naman po natin yung problema ngayon, yung current problem. Mababa po ang sahod, hindi po nila nakukuha yung kanilang mga benefits. Is there a commitment from you, dahil nga para kayo ho ang mangunguna ng health issue natin From you, number 1, tataasan ang sweldo ng mga healthcare workers, at number 2, siguradong mabibigay po yung kanilang mga benepisyo.
Sigurado bibigay ni Yorme yan at hindi lang yan. Siyempre, gusto natin libreng dialysis, di ba, sa mga hospital, as much as we can. We're not promising anything 6 months, 12 months. Kung ano yung kaya, ano makukuha natin na pera, talaga ibibigay natin yan. Especially the medicines sa mga primary care, sa mga health centers. Siyempre, dapat puno ng gamot. Hindi naman pwede patingi-tingi sa mga kababayan natin. So focus namin ni Yorme, which is very similar, yung aabot on the ground. We don't want PowerPoint presentation, magre-relax lang dito, tapos na gusto natin maramdaman ng tao na sila mismo matutuwa at magpapasalamat sa atin, sasabihin, ay tama pala siya ang pinili ko.
We need to take a very short break. The Source will be right back. Well, you're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. We're going to have to say goodbye now on television. The Source is really just 30 minutes long, Mayor and Dr. Willie Ong. So we're going to say goodbye on television. Pagpapatuloy po natin to sa Facebook. So thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.